Hello and welcome to the Ross Clown Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ross Sr., and this platform was created to motivate and to inspire in hopes that you will become a better you. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody that's listening all over the world. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Ross Clown Podcast. Listen, we have a very, very, very special show on today. This is dedicated to those that may be suffering in silence. We call this Mental Health Month, November. And we have a great panel of gentlemen on tonight. We have our special guest, Mr. Ron Godfrey, who's the author of Crying in the Dark. We also have Mr. Mike Rae Anderson, who is the national spokesperson for mass incarceration, as well as the author and filmmaker of A Polished Soul. So you guys are in for a treat. And of course, my co-host with us on tonight, the hostess with the mostest, the one and only Jeff Hennighan, photographer, self-proclaimed know-it-all. Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, doing well. I'm so very, very glad. I want to say to you, thank you so much for joining us on today. And thank you for being a part of this show. This is a very special show. And you have a very, very amazing story. Before we actually get into it, we're going to let you guys kind of take your time and kind of talk about mental health before we get started. Just what mental health means to you. And I guess we'll start with you, Ron. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, sure. First of all, I want to say good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be a part of the panel tonight. Mental health, first of all, it needs to be understood that mental health in our community is a big deal, and it's real. Depression is real, just as real as it comes. And I talk about different experiences that happened to me in my life that caused depression. I talk about it in my book, Crying Out in the Dark. And, it's amazing because, excuse me, a lot of people that I've known for a long time never knew that I was going through some of the things that I was going through because I kept it hidden. I kept it packed down. Because when you're going through, you have this fear of, telling people how you feel or whatever, because you don't know if they're going to go and spread your business or if they're going to judge you or anything like that. So the safest thing for me at that time was just keep it in, but it got to a boiling point, and that's how the book was produced, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely love you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And this has been a long time coming. We missed out on you last time, but we got you now, Ron.
Yeah.
I love it.
I thought and the funny part about it, I thought I was going to be live, and I put on a nice, pretty shirt and all that kind of stuff. And Mike was like, "No, you're just going to be on the phone."
I was like, "Just send me a picture, brother."
Yeah, absolutely. But I tell you what, man, this story is beautiful, brother, and I'm telling you, the folks are going to really enjoy it as we continue to go on to talk more about mental health. Go ahead, Mike, and jump on in there, man, and talk about mental health a little bit.
Yeah. So what mental health actually means to me is I have to reflect back to childhood. I was raised by an African-American Vietnam vet and Korean War vet who was PTSD diagnosed and sent back into society without being treated. And mind you, a lot of people don't realize that mental health also has a lot to do with environment. So imagine a whole slew of African-American Vietnam vets being targeted towards a certain community to buy houses as veterans, but they're all directed towards the same communities. So here we have these PTSD diagnosed African-American veterans that are all struggling and suffering, with mental health issues and mental health disorders, but they're not treated. So what do you have? You have an influx of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, depression, again, PTSD, I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where there was simulated bombing on a daily basis. So these simulated bombings would trigger these African American Vietnam vets, and Lord knows what would happen. But what I saw in my household was my father just going chaotic out of nowhere and attacking my mother, thinking she was Charlie, the enemy is what they called that in Vietnam.
That's right.
And then, of course, abusing alcohol, there was some drug abuse involved. And this also somewhat becomes hereditary in the sense that now what you're doing is you're spawning this upon your children. And so with that being said, mental health to me was something that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those situations where you had no idea what your next thought would be. When you wake up in the morning, like, am I going to survive what's going on right here in my household?
Yeah.
Am I going to survive? If I'm not safe in my household, what's going to happen when I go out into these streets, when I go up to the bus stop, when I go to school, when I see violence? How do I respond to that? So, that's not healthy mentally for any child.
Yeah.
So growing up in that put me in a situation to where I felt like I had to have a warrior state of mind.
Yeah.
To conquer everything on a daily basis and face it with the very next second and the next thought.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Mike. And Jeff, if you would share, if you would.
I'll piggyback on both of you, especially that last part, the fight or flight mechanism. And I think we all do it. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
As Black men, I think it's been well documented lately. Some of the tension that we go through as you grow older. I can remember, and I bet you guys remember when you first realized like you're not a kid anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were walking somewhere or something happened. For me, we were in the mall and it was 3 of us walking together.
Yeah.
Never been a problem. I'd walked with 6, 7, 8 kids before, but that day officers roll up and y'all got to break that up.
Sure.
And that's the first time I didn't feel like, I was one of the good kids. Like, you don't break us up.
Yeah.
So little stuff like that doesn't bother you. You don't think about it. But then when you look back when you're older, key moments like that feed some of how you feel about yourself, some of who you talk to and where you go and what do you think you can do. So I think acknowledging that it doesn't take a big trauma to affect your mental health is a big thing. Like, you don't have to have had something that you would compare to someone else and say mine is worse.
Yeah.
To have the effects of situations like, war vets or, victims of police brutality or, joblessness. I mean, we've gone through several instances in this country where you just could not get a job, even qualified people. So all of that can break you down if you're not addressing it and you don't know where to go for that. So
exactly.
I think that would probably be my closer story to is those little things that kind of wear you down.
No, but you made a very important point.
Yeah,
there's no comparison. There's not a comparable trace of mental health.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, look what I've done. No, look what I've gone through. I'm crazier than you. Whatever, I have more mental disorders than you. I mean, so to speak. So, and I believe that one of the things that Ron and myself can attest to, and then of course you as well, Ross, as actors, that's a trauma itself sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's a disparity there. There's a disparity there.
Right.
Who gets the role? Why did I not get the role? I know I killed that audition. I know I destroyed it.
Right.
What happened? What's going on? Why is there a pay disparity here? Why did this certain ethnicity over here on this side get paid more than me for a role that was probably comparable, in its sense? And I'm sure Ron can piggyback off of that.
Yeah. Hold on, Ron, before you make your point. Hold on just a minute, sir. Listen, if anyone is having some issues out there right now, even as we're having that conversation, listen, you can help is available for you. You can speak with someone today. You have that suicide crisis lifeline. That's 988. That's suicide and crisis lifeline. Hours are available 24 hours. The languages are English and Spanish. So there is help for you. Go ahead, Ron.
I want to chime in on that, what Mike was saying. As an actor, I remember when I first started 11 years ago, I jumped in head first. I had no one to guide me, to tell me, hey, you're going to be told no, you're going to be rejected. And I was always already a person that couldn't handle rejection well. You know what I'm saying? So already I'm like, wow. And then to be told no and or not to be told anything, you're sitting there waiting by the phone because you already auditioned and you know you killed it. But then you look up on TV and somebody's doing the part that you auditioned for. And at that time, it was like a slap in the face, you know? And so that's just like made me feel like, oh man, you know, and then you're looking at, I could have did better than that, but that's just my hurt and, you know, my disappointment talking, you know? And so, yeah, I can definitely, you know, relate to that. And also, you know, my traumas were different and in some senses the same. You know, I watched, you know, I had, like I talked about in my book, where I had a babysitter, you know, was being sexually inappropriate with me at the age of 6. You know what I mean? And I carried that into my adult years until I just finally talked about it. And again, it went into the book, you know, so we all have, you know, different types of trauma, but it all messes with our mental capacity. And a lot of people have to understand, especially about men, that we hurt too. We carry a lot of weight that people don't know about. Because we're always held under some type of microscope. We're always held to some type of standard, and a high standard at that. You know, to where if we don't reach that plateau, or if we don't meet that criteria, or whatever, we are made to feel less than in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A discussion I've had several times recently is, I think Chris Rock did a joke about part of it years ago, where he was basically saying, you know, you kind of are what you provide. You are what you can do as a man. So when you're not able to provide, or you're not able to be your best self, sometimes you can get that little depression or some other thing. And it might not be a thing to anybody else, but because that's what you know your value's based on, that leads to it. And for me personally, I mean, I had people tell me that I didn't have feelings one time. And it's more because, well, I keep it. I mean, intentionally. I mean, I'm a Capricorn and I'm told that's part of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, I can be a little stoic at times. I know that. But a lot of it is because it's a value thing. And when I'm doing something, I'm worried about getting that thing done, similar to sports or work or something like that. So if my feelings don't help get it done, I don't share my feelings, because what does it matter? You know, if you got to cry while you're doing it, I mean, cry, get it done. So I don't do that. And sometimes in relationships, it does the same thing. So in that particular case, I think it was something that was fairly hurtful, that was pretty obvious it would hurt, but because I'm not demonstrating what you would consider what it looks like when someone's hurt, oh, you don't have any feelings. So
right.
As men, I think we probably do it to ourselves sometimes, but a lot of times society will basically tell you, you know, we really just don't care about your feelings in that particular instance. And they show it to you more than they tell you.
Suck it up and keep it moving.
Yeah. I was going to say that. How much of this do you think you got? How much of this do you think you got? I think you said it a few minutes ago, self-inflicted. Some of it is culture. Some of it we're taught that, like you said a few minutes ago, suck it up. Those of us that were in the military, it was suck it up and drive on.
Exactly.
And so how much of that do you carry over into your civilian life after leaving military life? So that's something to think about too. And then some of our fathers have told us, boy, stop crying.
Yeah.
You know, boy, suck it up. You know, so what? It'll be all right. So how much of that is comes from racism as well?
Yes.
True.
If anybody want to speak on that a little bit, anybody want to go in depth about that?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna definitely speak from it, because I know, I grew up in an interracial relationship. My mom was German and my father was African American again.
Wow, look at the irony in that too. You know?
Yeah. And so, you know, as a biracial black man, you're up against.
You felt a lot.
Yeah, boy, you're up against Willie Lynch.
Yeah.
You know, as High Yeller, and you know, the light skin thing, and all the connotations that come with the racism of being not just a black man, but a biracial black man.
Yes.
Because now you're also split between the decision and daily choice of who do you choose. And so just being in the situation where you're not fully accepted by the blacks, you're not fully accepted by, Caucasians. My mom literally lost a lot of her family members and had to leave Germany because she married a black man.
Wow.
And then it's so crazy. I was watching, an episode of Force last night with Tommy.
Okay.
The Ghost series.
Okay, yeah.
Power series.
Yeah.
And so Force in there, they was talking about Kate, the grandmother, not being able to raise the black child, JP versus Tommy. And she said her mother was telling her, you're not going to be able to do this. They said those exact things to my mom. You're not going to be able to raise these black kids.
Yeah.
But then when we go into an all black neighborhood, because that's where the African-American vets were directed to, now here it is. I have a Caucasian German mother raising 4 black kids in an all black neighborhood. And now she's the outcast. She was being called German slut, German bee, sauerkraut hoe, all sorts of things.
Wow.
And so now this is taking a mental health toll on me. Because we're sitting here having to fight for my mother every day because we're not going to let nobody disrespect her, but yet and still, we're outnumbered.
Yeah, that's still your mama.
And we're outnumbered as the 4 little biracial, 3 at that time, because my little brother hadn't came yet, and thank God he didn't have to experience it.
Yeah.
But we're being outnumbered as the 3 little biracial kids that are fighting for their mom. So what's so special about this white lady? Why are these guys fighting every day? Well, number 1 is our mother.
Understood.
Number 2, we're just like y'all.
Yeah.
Some of y'all that's jumping on us or cursing my mom out is just as light as me. So I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
And to me, I think the racial divide of racism itself has catapulted us to hate ourselves so much that we don't even enjoy the 16 shades of blackness that we are blessed with. We don't enjoy the different tribes from whence we come.
Wow.
Right.
We're so small-minded that we decrease ourselves to saying black and light skin and this and that.
Yeah.
We don't even recognize ourselves as tribes anymore.
Wow.
We recognize ourselves as that, that yellow dude right there, or that black ass, you know what, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So blah, blah, blah. And with that being said, that's my take on what racism has done to us as a community when it comes to the beautiful spectrum of human beings that we are, the human beings.
I love it. Either one of y'all want to take in Ron or Jeff? You want to chime in, Ron?
I'll yield to Jeff.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, a couple of things there. The proximity to whiteness and how that has affected black people in this country. So I think the jokes and some of those other things that we all probably heard as kids, and you probably didn't even get that it was that sensitive at the time.
Yeah.
But the closer you can get to whiteness here, whatever race you are, the better you're going to do. So there's that part. And can you imagine being, we thought we was all black, and then now we get to school and, because you lighter than me, and every country deals with that. I mean, that is something across the world. Yeah. But the sense of belonging is what I heard from you too.
Exactly.
And I think a big part of mental health is belonging to something, which is why sports is such a good thing for most people.
Yeah.
Any clubs, the arts, you guys as actors.
Yeah.
You all understand what that felt like to audition. Maybe somebody even told you, man, you got this.
Yeah.
And then you didn't get it.
Yeah.
So that belonging, I think, probably helps you because you've all been through it. So nobody's feeling, left out. You're not an outcast. Yeah. Somebody can hear you. And I think when it hurts the most is when nobody can hear you. And especially if there were people you thought could hear you that either don't want to or can't. So I think that probably stresses your mental health the most.
Yeah.
Because if you thought you had a tribe and then something happens and that tribe is not there for you, that's a whole different trauma than just something happening and you being by yourself.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. I love that, Ron. It's a great segue. Kind of talk a little bit about your book, Crying in the Dark. If you would kind of elaborate a little bit about your the title of your book and the book that you penned, and really go into detail of why you penned that book. It's a beautiful story.
Okay.
It's very heartfelt, and I think it's very relatable as you talk about it.
Okay. My book is called Crying Out in the Dark. And when Jeff was just, talking about crying out or, calling out and nobody hears you, that's how I actually got the title of my book. That's how I came up with that, because I felt like I was in a position in my life to where I'm in total darkness and just yelling out, and no one heard me, no matter how loud I was yelling out. No one heard me, So that's where the title of my book came from. And a lot of times I was crying out on the inside, but it just wouldn't come to the surface because I was afraid, and that messed with my mental for a very long time. But I never told anybody. I didn't tell my mom or my dad, nobody. I told nobody because I was afraid. I was afraid of being judged. I was, afraid of being, done away with, tossed to the side. You know what I mean? Because I felt like I was different, And so, like I said, but after I wrote the book, I started feeling lighter, because I went all the way back to the time I was born, up to the time, and I can remember vividly when I was like 4 years old, and I took it from that point all the way up to my adult years. I did have somewhat of a setback as far as my depression. Last year, I lost my 6-year-old son. Last November, I lost my 6-year-old son to brain cancer. And even now, I just commemorated that on November the 1st, because that's the day he passed. And these last couple of weeks has actually been hard for me. It's been hard for his mom, because we suffered a tremendous loss. A 6-year-old child gone to brain cancer. You know what I mean? So I'll say this: we have to be careful even how we treat people and what we say to people, because you don't know what people are going through. You never know what people are going through. I will be writing another book, and I'm going to be including, my son's passing and the effect that it has had on my mental. I am in counseling. I'm in grief counseling, and I want to let everybody know that there's nothing wrong with that at all. I fought it. I fought it forever. But then I said, you know what? It doesn't make me less of a man to say, hey, I need help. It actually makes me more of a man to admit, to say, I need help. I need you to help me. I need you to. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so funny that you said that, because earlier me and Mike was talking a little bit, and I had some numbers for it, and it was saying that 80% of African Americans will not accept therapy. Either they don't have medical, or they're just the prideful thing of saying, no, there's nothing wrong with me. And we were talking like, what did we say, Mike? About we make up about what, 33% of the population?
33%.
Roughly. So when you think about those numbers and how it really does affect us, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more numbers here. And these numbers right here these are statistics about disparities in mental care. And this is from the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. So I'm going to read a few of these numbers, and then we'll move on. And then, Mike, you can take it from here and talk a little bit more. We can go even deeper into why we think some of the reasons are that we don't, the fear of going to therapy, and what people are going to say about us if we come out this conversation alone. Some people won't have it. So I'm going to read a few numbers, and then we'll move forward. People from racial and ethnic minority groups are less likely to receive mental health care. In 2015, among adults with any mental illness, 48% of whites receive mental health services, compared with 31% of Black and Hispanics and 22% of Asians. And again, this is from Agency for the Healthcare Research and Quality. This is a 2015 National Healthcare Quality and Disparities Report that happened in 2016. So, of course, these numbers probably has changed over the years. It's 2023, so that's 7 years ago. But I wanted to just take a little bit of time to just kind of read those numbers, and I'm sure they are probably a little higher now in 2023. So go ahead, Mike, if you would, as we continue to build and talk about mental health. And listen, we have that number going across the screen at the bottom. That's 988. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. It's available 24 hours. There's help for you. Someone can talk to you right now if you need assistance. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
Yes. So, and just to kind of like come back around and be a little bit more accurate, I know that they say that about 14% of the U.S. population identify as Black.
Okay.
Now,
is that Pacific, what we were talking about earlier?
Versus Pacific Islanders and stuff like that. Those are different ethnicities. Because this is the breakdown that the government, uses in census. It's very so-called, is what I like to say, so-called Black. It's just the identity that they have chosen to take a census count with. But in all actuality, we know at this point in 2023, as was predicted, that the majority of the population, that they don't try to include, or this all-inclusive is those of us that, come from interracial relationships and so on and so forth, and have created a whole different, spectrum in the United States. Most importantly, we got to remember, all right, as I was saying earlier, there's a warrior mentality that I had to take on when I was experiencing what I was experiencing with my father. Now, there's nothing that I blame on him, because I know the mentality that he had to adopt when he went into the military. They were spat on. They were disrespected. They were called the N-word when they fought for this country. And that goes all the way back probably to the 54th Regiment, when there was the Buffalo Soldiers or whatever. And, probably even to the point to where, your commissioned officers in the military were more so of your Caucasian race and ethnicities versus those, at this point now. So then you got to realize there's this stoicism also, as Jeff mentioned earlier, basically on being a Capricorn, but at the same time, we know as Black men, there's a stoicism that, is enforced upon us. The suck it up and get over it thing that we were just talking about actually was something that your father would say. If we came up in a latchkey society, our fathers and mothers had no time to be compassionate with us. They were working to death. They were working like the hamster in the hamster wheel, and chasing the income appropriations that they felt like was necessary to raise kids versus the compassion versus, the love, the understanding, and the non-stoic approach to raising a young Black man or a man, period. And the thing about it is when we instill this upon our youth, we are teaching youth who are developing a behavior and a mentality in their frontal lobe area through emotion. So this emotion that is actually emotionless is more so stoic, in a sense that now what we're being raised is not the emotion, but the logic of it. Why should I get up, suck it up, and keep moving? Well, the logic of it is, hey, you're a man. You're not supposed to experience any type of hurt or pain at this moment. So when that whole agenda is forced upon us, we go into these phases in our life as we develop our personality in our frontal lobe. And by the age of, what is it? They say 33, 35, you've pretty much developed. Well, that's 33, 35 years of being forced to feel, not to feel.
Complete silence. When you think about that,
you're being forced to feel, not to feel.
And it's just, it comes from so many places. Like, you can't pinpoint one place where you can say, well, if we'll focus on, then we can fix it. As you were talking, I'm thinking, I remember my brother's 2 years older than me. So she kind of deferred to dad a little bit in, boy type stuff. Like, maybe she thought that was a sensitive situation, but if dad was cool with it, it's like, And I didn't see it then, but you know, you get a little older and you can kind of see where I would have thought my mom's just not overly emotional or like sensitive for a lot of my earlier years. But then, you know, once you're a little older, out of those formative years, you're starting to see some of that. And so you can see some of that was either part society, but part just what they had decided, like these have to be young men. And when they leave this house, they have to know how the world works.
Yeah.
And growing up, you know, North Carolina, we had a reasonably diverse school, but it's, you don't know, you know, and she has brothers, some that were in the military, some that came back with, you know, drinking problems or other issues from having been in the military.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've all got that kind of family structure. So it's like, how do I teach you to hope, but also teach you that you walking around out here hoping and skipping around is not going to be healthy.
Yeah.
And
facts.
And you learning that to know like, okay, I can dream and I can do things and, you know, the sky's the limit, but there are limitations. There are people who don't want me successful.
Exactly.
And not to carry the full burden, but get some of the hope. Like that's what I kind of heard in there too. And, and that's the tough part. Like how do you tell a kid who's telling you he can be president that you can be, just as long as you understand that's going to take a little different than your friend across the street. Like you don't want to dash the hopes and dreams, but you want to be prepared.
Exactly.
And I think that's for our own mental health as men. I think that's the greatest thing that's going on right now is that people are discussing in a lot of different places.
Yes.
And so it's okay for you to say, I was depressed. You know, and maybe it was a small thing. You broke up, you were depressed. You know, you got fired, you were depressed. Like those things weren't things you'd admit you were depressed about. You know, maybe your father or mother died. Sure. You know, you're grieving. But and like he said, like with his son, I had another friend that they lost their child the same way, pretty early. I think he might have been less than 2 at the time. So you don't get over some of those things. You get past them, you get around them, you work through them. But it's like we allow certain things to be an issue that you don't have to move on from. And then other things we say, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, just as a support staff. So we kind of have to be available. Like you say, you never know what anybody's going through or what they've been through recently. So kind of approaching that, knowing, you know, okay, that might not have been about me. That might be something else they have going on. And that helps me mentally because now I'm not feeling attacked as much as I normally would because I'm just going to go ahead and assume that wasn't for me.
That's a great
How
point.
can I help you? And maybe that helps you see that you need to help you, and then we pass that on down.
Absolutely.
I remember Ron going through what he went through, what he just spoke about. And I remember Ron, I remember a perpetual crying out in the dark. It wasn't over. It actually had just begun for Ron when he lost his son. And I had been keeping track of it. You know, we get lost in the sauce sometimes, and that's our problem too. Sometimes we get so busy that we're too busy to realize what actually deserves your busyness. And one thing that I remember about Ron was Ron was still crying out in the dark, like I said, but when you spoke to him, he showed stoicism. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, but you were fighting the grieving process. Am I correct? Oh, we might have lost Ron.
No. Ron, you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear the question, Ron?
Yes. My answer to that is I was fighting really hard.
Yes.
I was fighting really hard. And I will say that Mike was one of the ones that was there for me. You know, he's a busy man. Okay, he couldn't be there every second, but when he could be there, he was there checking on me, you know, through text or call or whatever like that, because it was a very dark time in my life, you know, to lose your child. To watch him go through the things that he went through, you know, I sat at the foot of his bed as he took his last breath. You know, I remember all of those things. I even held him in my arms after he had passed, you know, and they say that the hearing is the last thing to go. So I whispered in his ears, I said, I held you when you came into this world, and now I hold you now as you leave. And sometimes those things come back to me, those words come back to me, those conversations come back to me, and I'll be honest, I just lose it because I miss my son. You know, I sat there and watched, and then I think about his mom, because he was with her most of the time, because, you know, we're not together anymore, but that was still his mom, and I have to give her props because she did a heck of a job taking care of him, you know, during the time that she did. And, you know, I remember getting a call from hospice saying, hey, you know, how long has it been since you've seen your son? I said 2 weeks. And they tell me he's going down fast. Those were the words they used. And the next day I was in South Carolina. The next day, because I was in Ohio when I got the call. But, you know, back to Mike, it was very dark. It was very dark, and I fought through it. People would say, you know, with everything you're going through, how could you do this? I had, and if you don't mind me saying it, I had to lean on God big time.
No, please share. Yeah.
I had to lean on God big time. That's how I was able to still go and audition and film and just live everyday life. But it's just like being on stage. When that curtain opens, you're giving your best performance, you're smiling, you're doing everything you got to do to get that performance over with. But when that curtain closes and those lights go off, it's a totally different thing.
That's right.
And that's what was going on with me.
Wow.
I
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think that's a good point. For us as men, again, it's the busyness that we were talking about. It can mask it. It can help you get through it. And so, a lot of times I feel like if I stay busy, you get through it faster and you get something accomplished. At least you did something with that time. And so then you don't end up dealing with whatever it is.
Yeah.
I actually was just talking to a friend yesterday, and the point was, I have a tendency to put myself into your dream.
Okay.
Like, I don't always work on my stuff. Right. So like for y'all, if I said, well, I always wanted to act too, I do more work to make sure y'all act than I probably would to do mine. Now I might move along too, because I'm helping you. Yeah. But I found that about myself in the last year or two. I actually lost a job, and so I had a lot of free time. A lot of self-reflection time.
You just gave a job up. You didn't lose it. You just gave, you gave it away.
They suggested it, so it wasn't just giving it up. But yeah, it definitely wasn't me.
Right.
But just with that, I worked out more. I job searched all day, but I just had a lot more time to think, and I hadn't really. People kept asking me, "What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
And the true answer was, I don't even know anymore. Like, I know what I'm good at. I know what people have told me to do. Yeah. But I've always kind of buried that stuff in, you know, you say, hey, you said I'd be good at podcasting. Let's do podcasting. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to do right now. But I'm going to help you build a studio and do all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I'm not taking care of myself. And I think we all probably do that in some form. Oh, yeah. Because you find a way to either, you know, be the dad or be the coach or be the uncle who's always there or, you know, help your parents, you know, go to church, whatever it is, you're doing something to keep from dealing with things that you know you probably need to deal with. And you probably haven't even dug deep enough to know exactly what it is that you're running from.
Yeah. There was something that you said a few minutes ago that struck a chord with me, and that was the cognitive side of the brain. And you was using it. You know, that's the part that helps with the decision making for us as humans. And see, how can I say this? I think a lot of times, not a lot of times, that part of our brain, even though we say that prefrontal cortex develops at 25 and 30, some of us, it doesn't though. Yeah. If you've made a lot of errors and a lot of mistakes and you're just not aware of what's really happening with you. And I can say that from personal experience. I say that because I can honestly say at 52, this is probably the best that I've ever been in my personal life. Decision making, making the right choices for my life, choosing me first, no matter what, choosing me, no matter the situation or the problem, to your point, all of this is going back to what you're saying. Also, Jeff, me and you had a conversation one time, and I remember you said to me one time, and you said, Ross, and that's why I'm talking about it, because you said to me, well, Ross, I was sharing with you about something, and you said, Ross, some people, they just don't know how to say it. They just don't know how to speak out.
Yeah.
All they know how to do is hide and cry in the dark.
I was one of those people.
Okay.
I was one of those people.
Okay, then. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
Paul Lawrence Dunbar wrote a poem, "We Wear the Mask,"
And
he said it best. In a sense that we face a society that has made the rules for us already. Not rules for us to survive, but rules for us to just live.
Yes. Yeah.
He didn't say that in the poem, but there's a connotation behind his poem, "We Wear the Mask."
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized, man, see, Ron had no idea that he had helped me with therapy.
Oh wow.
And so in case you don't know, Ron Godfrey actually plays the younger version of my father in my biopic, A Polished Soul. And there's a scene where my son plays me when I was 6 years old, and I was in a moment with my father.
And he did a great job too.
Yeah, both of them killed that scene.
They really did.
But
amazing scene.
Ron had no idea that he was helping me face a part of my childhood that had really broken me. While I watched it play out and realized in that moment I had to let that power that part of my life had over me be gone.
Yeah.
So he helped me get through it while I was watching him, filming it. And the most important thing, the way he attached himself to my son after the scene was over. Yeah. There was no longer my father there. There was Ron, who also was a Black father that was next to my son and talking to him and also pouring into him because my son is an actor. So with that being said, that therapy was also distributed upon me because I also cried out in the dark for years. Everything that I've gone through in my childhood, being in prison on a life sentence for 17 and a half years, coming home and having to face society with I can't screw up.
That's right.
I can't make a mistake.
That's right.
There's a whole bunch of pressure on me because I got to get it right this time.
Yeah.
All those things were like a relief in that moment when I was shooting and directing those scenes. And that therapy to me was so helpful that I only owed Ron to be the guy that, okay, you may not know it. But you crying out in the dark is like a dog whistle to me. I hear those decibels. I can hear those decibels. I hear you crying out in the dark. So you're not going to ask me, but I'm going to ask you. Because you helped me already, my brother. And am I my brother's keeper? Of course I am, because God said so. So as this happened and occurred, it only gave me the opportunity to make sure that I was contributing to what they say that we don't contribute to.
So you really had that right there. You had your man in the mirror moment there.
My man in the mirror moment. And he was part of the therapy.
Right there at that moment. That's what you was having in real time.
Through the whole, like even shout out to Joshua Gunn who played me. I mean, as I filmed this whole movie. It was my therapy. When I wrote the book, it was my therapy. And to this very day, I have to have infinite therapy because I am screwed up. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm jacked up. I got my mess with me, but at the same time, as I become God's most perfect imperfection,
come on, man,
my mental health is one of the most important things to me because if I lose it,
hey, listen, make sure you guys go check out A Polished Soul. A Polished Soul. It's a story of Mike Rae Anderson with the one and only legendary actor Oba Babatunde.
And Oba Babatunde, Shaw Jackson, Hawthorne James, who was a beast in that film.
Yes, sir.
And, the older version of my father's played by Petrie Bird, who was on Judge Judy, of course.
Yes, sir.
It's available on Tubi, quick.
Right on.
Available on Tubi. You can watch it for free. You ain't got to pay for it. And if you don't support for free, something ain't right. Something ain't right if you don't support
right.
for free, man.
Yeah.
That shackles on your feet right
Yes,
there.
sir.
I'm just trying to keep it real, man. That's slave mentality, man. Talking about depression,
Yes,
shoot. You
sir.
depressing me not watching something for free. Come on now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother Jeff. Go ahead, brother Jeff.
Well, just one of the things you talked about earlier, especially with Ron and your son, you were saying some people can't say certain things.
Yeah,
And sometimes you don't mature at the same rate.
correct.
And that's, I think, the physical maturity of your brain's ability to mature is one thing,
Mhm.
but your environment and what you've done and been through
Come on.
is a whole different thing.
Exactly.
So with different support structures, and
Mhm.
if your family, like my family has a lot of educators on my mom's side.
Sure.
So there's a lot of education that I get that probably some people didn't get at that age.
Mhm.
But had they been therapists,
I got
I
you.
might use different terminology. I might
Mhm.
know there are more words than, I mean, a lot of men, like if you really think about when you were younger,
Yeah.
if somebody asked you how you were feeling, it's like 3 feelings.
Yeah.
You're either angry, you're happy, or probably like substitute hungry, sleepy, something like that. But like,
Absolutely.
it's only like 5.
It's only 5.
And there's, dozens of terms,
Mhm.
for how you might feel, especially when you're feeling down.
Yeah,
So if you don't know how to do that,
that's right.
you could walk around just feeling like I'm always angry
That's right.
when you might be pensive or scared
Exactly.
or, some other thing. And because you're in class and the teacher says, take that hat off, Mike, and you sad, like whatever happened at home, you were
Almost took
just
it off.
sad. Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I almost just literally took it off.
That was my training, authoritative voice. So, you know what's up. But when you do that, I come at you differently because you are, black man,
Yeah.
large, you got your hat on.
Mhm.
And when you don't want to, I'm going to take that. Most teachers are going to take that as you're being disruptive. You don't want to do what I'm telling you to do, because I'm not approaching you as a young person who's learning how to deal with emotion. I'm approaching
Mhm.
you like you're being disrespectful.
Exactly.
So get out of my class.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, why would you ever share your feelings with me
Yeah.
after that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you probably are worse the next time you come back. Now you're really
Mhm.
going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm
Mhm.
throwing me out anyway,
Yeah.
I might as well just go ahead.
I'm going to wild out.
I
Right.
can't trust you with my feelings.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
Yeah.
a trust
And
issue now.
that's
Yeah,
why
it
at that
is.
age, if you haven't learned that you can trust people,
Yes.
either through action or
Come on,
through
man.
the results,
Yes.
it's going to take you long.
It's right.
And it really
Absolutely.
takes somebody to, in my opinion, it takes somebody to be there for you when
Mhm.
you think it was a big enough deal for them not to be.
Yeah.
Like you'd be okay with them saying, nah, that's enough.
Exactly.
And they're
Yeah.
there, then you're
Right.
like, okay, maybe I'm worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe I can
That's
share
right.
that thing
Yeah.
because that person, and I can think of probably 3 or 4 of my closer friends
Yeah.
who are supportive or
Yeah.
like, right when you're thinking, man, I'm in the dark, I'm by myself, they
Mhm.
call you
Mhm.
or they text you
Yeah.
or they're like, man, just come here,
Yes.
hang out here. I ain't got the money, get here,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever they got to do.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to completely go dark
Mm.
because I've always had just enough support from people who care that I can't honestly say nobody cares.
That safe
Yeah.
place.
And it might not
Yeah.
even be, it might not be something so 100% you just, like
Yeah,
go into your parents' house and
I
get
know
a
what you
home cooked
mean.
meal. Not quite that level,
Yes.
but somebody just checks on you
Yeah.
or just make sure you're okay. And that's enough for you to then do it for somebody else and pass that down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know,
It means a lot. It means a lot when people take the time out, because just recently, I had some of my celebrity friends reach out to me through my Instagram, or they actually text me and say, "Hey, I know this is the year for your son. How are you doing? How have you been? How's his mother? And it just, the messages come out of nowhere, and actually it makes me light up like a Christmas tree, because I'm saying, okay, they care. They
Mhm.
remember what I went through. It's like Mike remembers what I went through.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? He remembers the smile that was actually my smile was actually a fake. It was a mask, like we talked about earlier. It was a mask.
Yeah.
Because behind that mask, I was broke down. There were tears like crazy. You know what I mean? But I couldn't show that, at the time. Well, I felt like I couldn't show it. But, when you have people to just reach out to you just out of the blue, say, hey, man, how you doing? Do you need anything? Whatever. That right there alone could be a game changer in your life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because you never know, again, what a person is going through. at that moment. You know, because of what they've been through and different things like that. Yeah, I had to put that in there.
I just hate the fact that we have lost the true meaning of brotherhood. And I'm saying this as a whole.
Sure.
We're afraid to be a comforter because now with all these different things going on in the world of inclusivity, so to speak, we're trying to make sure that we don't identify as somebody who loves and cares for somebody because it takes you outside of the threshold of your manhood. And one of the things about it is we've forgotten how to hug our brother versus pat him on the back. We've forgotten how to say, yo, brother, what do you need? Versus saying, man, everything gonna be all right, it'll work out. We've even forgotten how to listen without trying to talk and give somebody some type of professional diagnosis or professional prescription, verbal prescription to how to get better in the next few minutes.
Yeah, that's true, man.
And deliver somebody out of a grieving process that we may never even understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand what it's like to lose a son, and God forbid.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can understand is that you're in pain. So how do I come to you in your pain? That's what we got to start teaching each other. That's what we got to stop being afraid to be.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody looks at the word comforter and all they think about is a quilt on your bed that keeps you warm in the wintertime. Nah, man.
Yeah.
We gotta be those dudes, those brothers that from here on out, man, and say, I am worried about your mental health. This is Mental Health November. Why would they have a Mental Health November for men if it did not exist?
Exactly.
Every other month exists.
That's right. That's right.
So what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? I think it's probably a good segue to say, what are we doing wrong and what can we do right?
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. We're actually afraid of each other.
Yes.
I mean, we're literally afraid of each other. How many times have you that old thing between the young and the old now? That stuff
we was talking about that.
Yeah, it still exists. Well, I'm not afraid. Now, I'm not going to say everybody, but when you think about it, we witnessed something today.
Yes.
Even our sisters are afraid of us.
Oh my gosh.
they don't want to speak to us. Lord have mercy.
And it is not like that.
It's not like
our
that.
Sisters. If you're listening, we promise you. All of us ain't after what you got in you.
Right.
You know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. But it's become that way. We're such an aggressive society now. Everything is aggressive. What you looking at?
Yeah.
What? What?
Clutch my purse and close my sweater tighter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's a resources kind of thing.
Okay.
We've kind of been sold that there's a limited amount of resources for anything. Like there's a limited amount of jobs for actors. So if you two show up in the same room and you're reading for the same role. Yeah. Are you the type of people who are gonna, hey, good luck and hopefully one of us gets it. Yeah. But a lot of people will sit there and I'm not talking to you, like it's a competition.
Crab.
Right? And everything.
Crab mentality.
That's the one that loses. I've learned that, I promise.
But everything. If you think about how things are marketed.
Fact.
A lot of times.
A lot of times,
how we're marketed things tends to be either or.
Yeah.
Right. You either have to like Coke or Pepsi. You can't just like soda.
Yeah.
Right. I ain't gonna drink either one of them, but like you have to sell it, and that one's bad.
Yeah.
So if you think about it in terms of pretty much everything else we do, whether it's a candidate for office, even in your local office races, my God, like we arguing about trash cans and whatnot, and you still are saying, well, those guys over there, like it just makes no sense. So that's where a lot of being scared comes in. Is if you're not on my team, you're on that team. I can't trust you.
I can't trust you. That's true.
And we don't. And because think about how many times you've been somewhere where people would not speak to you, but say a new person comes in who knows them and you. Now all of a sudden everybody's speaking. right?
Yeah, everybody.
Especially if it's a different culture. Like if you're in a mixed culture place and someone from that group comes in and says, Jeff, all of a sudden you the man. Like, hey, come get a drink. But if you don't, you can sit in that corner all day and people won't speak to you.
Won't say a word.
It's choosing teams based on safety. I'm assuming safety, but like you're just picking a side.
Nah, that's a good point.
And so for us, that's the thing is black men is like when I went to UNC, when I got there, the rule was you spoke to every black person.
Yeah.
Mm.
You didn't have to know them.
Yeah.
You be walking 100 yards over there. If we make eye contact, you at least gonna say what's up.
Yeah.
Never seen him before, never seen him again. But that's just what you did.
Right.
And I went back to campus 10 years after I graduated, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super young, so that was only like last year. But it was like last year, a couple months ago. But I go back and they weren't doing it. Yeah. Like I'm seeing people walk by, I'm seeing, they don't talk.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking people like, well, what happened? Like what is doing that?
Yeah.
And they were saying, and my theory is we can be autonomous now at a level that you could not do 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take your own computer to college. You don't need a computer lab.
No, that's right.
You got your own TV. Matter of fact, you got your iPad and phone. You don't even have to go to the lounge to watch TV.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat the dining hall. You can DoorDash.
Yeah.
You probably got more money that your parents are giving you because parents don't send their kids to school to be broke no more.
Nah.
My parents sent me some oodles and noodles, a couple boxes of cookies, and that's college. Hey, work it out.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not sending you money for pizza. You better make a friend. And now we prepare people to not share and to not have that community. So if you already wasn't doing that and you haven't been, socialized to do it. Yeah. When you're hurting, that's not the time you're going to do it.
Oh, no. It's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And if we don't, you guys are talking about the therapy and how Ron's therapy helped you.
Yeah.
Those people that do go to therapy and have the terms and can explain it to your people. Yeah. We're going to have to do trickle down therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything you did in your movie, somebody's going to watch and maybe they get something from it.
Exactly. That's right.
And then they pass that.
That's
and
right.
He talked to your son. So now your son knows he's in middle school and something's going down. He's going to have a little bit better terminology than some of the other kids.
And what's crazy is that's what it was designed for. It was designed just for that. I knew it was a get rich movie because it was too positive. But my thing is trickle down therapy, man. Trickle down therapy is exactly like what the answer. I mean, the question earlier was, how do we change this? Yeah. What can we do?
Yeah.
Trickle down therapy, man, because the terminology is not there, but the process and the method is.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
I mean,
I do.
I ain't gonna lie. There's times I encounter hurt, I encounter pain, and I have to process it a totally different way now because I know that he was talking about the stoicism of the Capricorns. I'm an Aquarius.
Right there next to you.
Exactly. So we struggle with that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just one of those things, man, that I think by the end of the day, man, as an artist, I get real sensitive about my
absolutely.
Like Eric Badu.
You're sensitive about it.
I get sensitive about it. So if there's a sensitivity there, I have to admit to that. You know what I'm saying? Be like, don't talk about my
please
whatever,
don't.
You know what I'm saying?
Leave it alone.
And that's mental health for me.
I get it.
Let me deal with it.
I get it.
Trickle down therapy, man. I just feel like, it's gonna work. It's gonna be that new method, man. You know, and just piggyback what he's talking about. I mean, cell phones have really taken people out of the picture. Like,
you can be in a tunnel.
It's the box. It is the box.
It's the way of communicating.
Oh my God.
I appreciate you doing the movie because I know that's a weak point for me. That's part of, like I was saying, I'll take your dream and help you do yours.
Yeah.
I think some of that is as an artist, and I have been in several ways. Photography, I was an art major for a little while.
Yeah.
But when you're in the mode of just creating, it's one thing.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about where you're gonna put it, and who's gonna receive it, and how they're gonna receive it, a lot of times that can hold you back from releasing anything. And I would bet you, if we were betting on why I haven't started any of the stuff we've talked about, some of it was being quote busy, like you said. And the other part is like, I don't want to put this out because what if, and I want to be perfect because what if, and sometimes you just got to tell a story.
And
put it out there. So doing that part, is you fixing. That's one of the things you do. You teach people you got to put it out there and just let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was one reason why, to your point, why I created this platform.
Exactly.
To get these messages out, you know, whether it's other people's stories, through great dialogue and having the right people on the platform that can convey it properly where it can be understood. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Whether it's inviting somebody in on the platform, it's not going to hurt me any at all.
No.
Which is another thing we got to get away from. You're not taking nothing from me. I want you to come.
Yeah. And you can't.
Yeah, you can. I want you to grow from this. I want you to be able to run with something. Maybe it's something that sparks in you and say, hey, I'm going to do this too. You know, it's enough for us to share this thing in hopes that it can empower people at the end of the day. And I hope that this conversation definitely will. You know, I'm very appreciative that, first of all, Mike, that you called Ron. Well, we was just sitting down having some good Lux today.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Lux.
We had a whole plate of sleep.
Man, a whole plate of sleep. Absolutely. Lord have mercy. And he brought up Ron's name, and I was like, man, if you can do that, that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
So Ron, I'm telling you, brother, you have definitely made my day on today, brother. I really do appreciate it. If you would, man, do you have any kind of closing thoughts, man, as we get ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, first of all, I'm still kind of hurt because I had my shirt ready to put on. I just thought I was going to be on camera, you know. I went to my closet. I was like, yeah, I'm going to put this shirt on right here, you know. Hey, I have a ring light on and everything.
Oh, man.
But you're ready for next show now. So, yeah, just hang it up. Hang it up. You can wear it next time.
You got I promise you got a C-mail coming in. You got an audition coming through.
I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, listen, Mike, I had my ring light set up. I was like, okay, let me get the link and everything.
And I had explained.
No, you can call in. I was like, oh, wow. You know? But
hey, you know what, Ron? You know what, Ron? Spoken like a true artist that you are, sir.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. I stay ready. I got to.
That's right.
Now listen, I know a therapist that helps people that got dressed for radio interview.
Oh man,
you know, I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm so used to doing interviews where I'm live.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I was just ready, you know. But I just want to say I appreciate you guys having me on.
Right on.
And like you have it there on the screen, you know, if you want to order my book, you can, or an autographed copy of my book, you order through my website. If you don't care to have an autographed copy, you order through Amazon. I'm thanking God because I released it 3 years ago and it's still doing well.
Awesome, brother.
So, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's an infinite topic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ron. We gonna make sure we get this message out, brother. Again, thank you so much. Listen, anybody want to have some closing thoughts before we close out? We can start. Whoever want to start, Jeff or Mike?
You better at this. I'll let you go last.
No,
I'll go first.
brother.
You're not national representatives and whatnot. You go last. Yeah. No, I mean, I think I pretty much said everything I had to on this.
Right.
I think the community aspect that you all mentioned is crucial, especially for Black men to be able to at least ask if you're okay, like you said, in a meaningful way. In a way that says, I really do want to hear the answer. And if it's one I don't like, I'll still sit with you and try to figure that out. Or maybe just sit here like that. That's what I had to learn is I'm not the best at what to say or do when things aren't necessarily great. Like for Ron or a situation like that. I don't know. I'm not the one who knows the scripture. I'm not the one who can do that part. But I can be here.
That's right.
And or we can go somewhere else. Like I'll be present. And I had to learn that's enough for most people. And maybe I can connect you with the person who doesn't know what to say. But my job is just to be here because you told me first.
Right on.
And so that part of protecting mental health helps me because I feel like if I help you, I'll feel more valuable when I need it. And I think that's what we all could probably admit is part of the reason you don't share is because you don't feel valuable enough at that moment to where my problem's big enough to share. So in working through that part, I'm trying to give as much as you would want to receive and just hope you get that back.
Yeah.
I love somebody just put down in the chat, William Walker, I think it is, Uncle Dash Walker. He said, yeah, because we all we got.
That's my nephew, man. That's my nephew, man.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Mike.
I want to say this, man, because I've lost people to mental health. I've lost people to suicide.
Yes, you have.
I've lost people to insanity. I've lost people to, so many different things that revolve around mental health. One of the biggest things that I refuse to lose is myself. And the reason why I refuse to lose myself is because, as I heard Jeff talking about, it's a resource thing earlier. I've realized that I can be a huge resource.
Yes.
And I'd rather be a huge resource than a source of information. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. I can go read a magazine all day, get something out of it. An article can be appealing to me, or there's a few pictures in there that might have stimulated, my brain a little bit or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a source of information. By the end of the day, I may forget about it at the end of the day or by next week.
Yes.
As a resource, I'm constantly there.
Yeah.
And I'm there to allow a process to take place that can evolve a human being to a whole nother level. As long as I'm involved.
Yeah.
Being involved is what matters with us nowadays. I had a phone call from a friend that I grew up with. I mean, we go back. He and I are the same age, 51 years old.
Yeah.
And he literally told me that coming home and coming to pick him up and get him out of his apartment and take him to the Fayetteville State homecoming and doing some other things that we did. We went back to our high school. We looked back on that and realized we weren't really missing anything. We've outgrown this. We were like, we grown ups at a high school game. We were just talking about these things. And, I was cracking jokes. That's how he's used to me. Cracking jokes when we were growing up. I was the comedian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He literally told me, he said, I just want to say something to you. Right before we went on air.
Yeah.
Mikey, my mental health was in the worst situation until you came through and showed me that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
He was alone, crying out in the dark. And just like I said, I heard Ron's high decibel crying like a dog whistle. I felt like I heard it. And this is what I want to say. I know they talk about women's intuition, but men, brothers, we have an intuition.
Yes, we do.
That is above and beyond what anybody can ever imagine that we have. Don't be afraid to listen to it, and don't be afraid to even approach somebody with the word, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, because we feel how we are stoics, we're afraid to approach another person and insult their stoicism. So we don't even contribute.
Yeah.
What I want us to do is to continue to be resources. I want us to be able to have open dialogue about how we're feeling about something if it's not feeling right.
Yeah.
I had a friend that is in the acting world. He took himself out and his family because he was suffering from depression.
Yeah.
He took his whole family out along with himself.
Yeah.
And this brother was on the rise. He was in Marvel movies and everything.
Yeah, he was.
And it was hurtful to hear that this is what happened. And I was absent during a time that I was always present, and it hurt me.
Yeah.
I felt vulnerable to the possibility of contributing to that. So don't ever afraid to wake up. Don't be afraid to wake up and be a resource for each other, my brothers, my kings, my fellow kings, my fellow princes of the earth, my fellow warriors, my fellow soldiers, whatever you may be.
Yeah.
Let's wake up and not be afraid to be a resource for each other.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Listen, I hope you guys have heard something on today that could help you become a better you. Listen, if you need media services, please reach out to the Mix Network LLC, capturing moments that matter. Feel free to contact them. And this episode was sponsored by Anderson Entertainment. Listen, I want to say thank you again. And remember, take care of yourself, love one another. Listen, if you haven't told anybody today, if you haven't told your brother, your sister, your mother, your best friend that you love them, please do so. Give somebody a hug today and tell them everything's going to be all right. Listen, this is the Ross Cloud Podcast. I'm Chris Ross. Make it a great day and keep being great. Peace.